She thought cheating before marriage didn't count. Part 1. The illusion of perfection. I never thought a wedding would be the place where my own marriage began to crumble. They say weddings are a celebration of love and new beginnings. But for me, it was the autopsy of a 5-year lie. To give you some context, I'm 25 and my wife, Sarah, is 23. We've been married for 3 years and together for 5. For half a decade, I believed we had the kind of foundation people wrote books about. We met in college, navigated the early struggles of our careers together, and built a home that felt like a sanctuary. I trusted her with every fiber of my being. Looking back, that trust was my greatest weakness. 2 weeks ago, Sarah's older sister, Megan, got married. Sarah was a bridesmaid, which meant she was practically living at her parents' house for the week leading up to the big day. She took Wednesday through Friday off to help with the flowers, the seating charts, and the endless bridal emergencies. I hadn't seen her since Tuesday morning. I missed her, but I was proud of how she was stepping up for her sister. On Saturday morning, I pulled into her parents' driveway a few hours before the ceremony. I had my suit hanging in the back, a fresh coffee in my hand, and I was just hoping for a quick kiss and a good luck before the chaos started. When I arrived, I saw Sarah looking out the upstairs window. Our eyes met, but she didn't wave or smile. She ducked away. A minute later, her brother came out to the driveway. "Hey man," he said, looking a bit awkward. "Sarah says she'll meet you at the car in a second. She needs to talk to you privately before the ceremony starts." My heart did a weird little flip. Is everything okay? Did something happen with the dress? "Just talk to her," he said, avoiding my gaze. When she finally climbed into the passenger seat, she wasn't wearing her bridesmaid dress yet. She looked pale, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped her phone. She didn't look happy to see me. She looked braced, like she was waiting for a collision. "I need to tell you something," she started, her voice low. "I don't want anything to ruin Megan's day, and I don't want you to hear this from someone else at the reception. I wanted to get ahead of it, so you wouldn't be blindsided." Then she dropped the bomb. She told me that 4 years ago, she had a brief fling with Mark, the best man. She claimed it didn't mean anything, but knowing I could be a bit protective, she wanted me to know so I wouldn't act weird if I saw them interacting or heard people joking about the past. I sat there stunned. My first instinct was to comfort her. I told her I appreciated the honesty and that a past fling wasn't a big deal. After all, people have histories. She gave me a tight smile, kissed my cheek, and went back inside. I drove to a nearby deli to grab a quick lunch before the ceremony, sitting in my car with the engine running. That's when the math started clicking. She said the fling was 4 years ago. We have been together for 5 years. At first, I tried to gaslight myself. She just got the years wrong, I thought. She meant 5.5 years ago. Or maybe they were just friends. But then, a flood of memories from our second year together came rushing back. I remembered a 3-month stretch where she became sketchy. She wasn't available on weekends. She started going on work training trips that I wasn't invited to. I remember crying in our apartment back then, wondering why she was pulling away, only for her to come back and tell me I was being insecure. The sandwich in my hand felt like ash. I realized that while I was sitting at home missing her 4 years ago, she was likely with the man who was currently standing at the altar next to her brother-in-law. Part 2. The silent ceremony. I went to the wedding in a complete daze. The music, the flowers, the laughter. It all felt like a fever dream. I watched Sarah stand there during the ceremony, looking radiant in her peach dress, while my brain was a crime scene. I kept looking at Mark, the best man. He was tall, confident, and laughing with the groom. I felt a wave of nausea every time he looked in Sarah's direction. At the reception, things got worse. The DJ announced the wedding party dance. I expected Sarah to dance with her brother or a cousin, but she walked straight to Mark. I caught her as she was heading to the floor. "Why are you dancing with him?" I whispered, trying to keep my face neutral for the photographers. The maid of honor wanted to dance with her actual husband instead, so we swapped, she said, her voice dripping with artificial casualness. "Don't be weird, okay? Everyone is watching." I stayed completely sober. I wanted to maintain total control of my faculties. I watched them dance. I watched the way he leaned in to whisper something in her ear, and the way she threw her head back and laughed. It wasn't the laughter of two people who had a mistake 4 years ago. It was the laughter of people who shared a secret language. Later, she had the audacity to bring him over to my table. "Mark, this is my husband," she said. Mark shook my hand with a grip that felt like an insult. "Good to finally meet the man Sarah talks about so much," he said, a smug glint in his eye. I was barely cordial. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table. Instead, I stood up and walked out to the balcony, just to breathe the cold night air. When I came back in, Sarah was waiting for me, her arms crossed. "You're being rude," she hissed. "You're acting like some tough guy looking for a fight. You're ruining my sister's night." "We'll talk at home," I said. My voice was dead. She got in a huff, told her sister we were leaving early because I was feeling sick, and we headed to the car. The silence on the drive home was heavy enough to crush the lungs. Part 3, the I know moment. As soon as the front door closed behind us, I didn't even take off my jacket. I turned to her and asked her to tell me the story about Mark again. I wanted to see if she would change the timeline now that she wasn't under the pressure of a wedding. She repeated it, almost word for word. "A brief physical thing 4 years ago." I looked her dead in the eye. "Sarah, we've been together for 5 years. We were living together 4 years ago. We were talking about buying a dog. We were planning our future." The air left the room. She didn't deny it. She didn't look flustered. She didn't even have the decency to cry. She just looked at me with a cold, terrifying level of pragmatism and said, "I know." She explained that they worked together at her old internship and it was just a physical thing. She claimed we weren't in a great place back then, which was news to me, and she just wanted to have some fun. Then came the words that broke me. "You're being childish for getting upset now. We're married. We have a house. Whatever happened before the wedding doesn't count." The slate was wiped clean when we said our vows. I was livid. She had betrayed my trust for years, kept a man she slept with in her social circle, forced me to shake his hand, and was now acting superior because I was hurt. She was essentially saying that her loyalty was a switch she only flipped on the day we signed a legal document. "So the last 5 years were a lie?" I asked. "No," she insisted. "The last 3 years of marriage have been real. The stuff before, that was just us figuring it out." I told her I needed time to think and went asleep on the couch. For the next week, the house felt like a morgue. I saw a stranger when I looked at her. I saw a woman who could look me in the face while harboring a secret that would have ended us years ago. She had stolen my right to choose. I never got to decide if I wanted to marry a person who could do that. Part 4, the breakdown in the in-laws. A week passed in a cold limbo. I think Sarah thought I would just get over it like I usually did with our minor arguments. But when she saw me looking at local apartment listings, the reality finally hit her. I wasn't just mad, I was mourning. I was considering a divorce. That's when her world came crashing down. Sarah has always struggled with anxiety, but this was different. She had a legitimate, severe emotional breakdown. She couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep, and she began having panic attacks so violent we ended up in the emergency room at 2:00 a.m. This brought her family into the mix. Her parents showed up at the hospital, frantic. I was exhausted, drained, and ready for a fight. I expected her father to defend her, to tell me to be a man and support his daughter. But when we stepped into the hallway, he floored me. "I am so sorry," he said, his voice cracking. He looked like he had aged 10 years in a night. He told me he felt like a failure as a parent. He confessed that his wife, my mother-in-law, had raised their daughters with a deeply toxic value system. She had coached them for years on the idea that men don't need to know everything and that life starts at the altar. She believed that a woman's past, no matter how recent, was her own business, and that I do functioned as a universal reset button. I argued with her about it for years, he told me. I told her she was teaching them to build houses on sand. "And now I'm watching your house collapse." Going back into the room, I saw Sarah curled in a ball on the hospital bed, sobbing into her pillows. I'm not a stone. I loved this woman with everything I had. Seeing her that broken, it got to me. I held her, and for the first time since the wedding, she stopped making excuses. She apologized over and over, her voice raw. We decided then and there, if there was any hope, we needed a truth session. Part 5, the anatomy of a betrayal. A few days later, back at home, we sat across from each other. I told her I needed every detail. I knew it would hurt, but I couldn't live with the vague shadows anymore. She was brutally honest. She confirmed it happened on 3 different occasions during that work trip phase. She told me how she had lied to my face when I called her at night to tell her I loved her. I asked the hardest question: why wasn't I good enough? Why didn't you just leave me if you wanted him? You were always enough, she sobbed. That's the problem. I was scared of how much I loved you, and I was young. And I was being told by my mom and my friends that it didn't matter. I thought I could have my cake and eat it too, and then just bury the evidence. The worst part of the truth was finding out the scale of the humiliation. Mark knew. His best friend, Sarah's new brother-in-law, knew. Sarah's sister, Megan, knew. They had all been at the wedding, watching me, the happy husband, while knowing I was the only person in the room who didn't know the truth. I had been a laughingstock in their social circle for years. Part 6. The separation and the come to Jesus meeting. I couldn't stay in the house after that. Every room felt tainted. I moved in with my older brother, who didn't ask questions. He just handed me a beer and a spare key. Sarah was now on heavy medication for her anxiety. She sent me texts every hour, telling me that the silence was torture. I wasn't trying to punish her, but I was in survival mode. I told her, "You had 4 years of peace while I lived in a lie. I deserve more than 4 weeks to process the truth." After a month of separation, we had what I call the come to Jesus meeting. We met at a neutral park and talked from 6:00 p.m. until 2:00 a.m. in my car. I laid it all out. "By hiding this, you took away my agency," I told her. "You stole my ability to make an informed choice about my own life. You let me build a marriage on a foundation of garbage." She didn't fight back this time. She admitted that her first instinct at the wedding, calling me immature, was a defense mechanism. She admitted she had been gaslighting me to protect her own image of herself as a good wife. She finally understood that the crime wasn't just the fling 4 years ago. It was the 4 years of daily deception that followed. I set 4 non-negotiable conditions for even attempting to save the marriage. Total no contact. She was to block Mark on everything. If he appeared at a family function, we were to leave immediately. Couples therapy. We needed a professional to navigate the trauma. The wait period. I was staying at my brother's. We weren't on a break to see other people, but we weren't fine either. The death of the idol. I told her the perfect Sarah I married was dead. I had to learn to love the flawed, dishonest version of her, or no one at all. We were starting from zero. Part 7, the final test. A month into our new start, things were actually looking up. We were going on dates. We were talking more deeply than we ever had. But there was a voice in my head, a dark, cynical voice, asking if she really got it, or if she was just a world-class actress waiting for the storm to blow over. I did something that I now realize was toxic, but at the time, I felt I had to do it. I went to a lawyer and had divorce papers drawn up. I didn't intend to file them that day, but I wanted them as a safety break. I wanted to see her reaction. I took the envelope to her during one of our date nights at the house. I laid them on the coffee table. "I'm committed to us," I said, "but I need you to know I'm serious. If you ever lie to me again about anything, this is where we end up. I need you to see what the end looks like." It was a disaster. The look of absolute terror and heartbreak on her face wasn't dramatic. It was visceral. She didn't get mad. She just collapsed. We ended up back in the ER for the 3rd time in 2 months, sitting in that hospital plastic chair at 4:00 a.m., watching the heart monitor beep. I had my own revelation. I was becoming the villain in my own story. By trying to gain control through fear and manipulation, I was destroying the very person I was trying to decide if I still loved. I took the papers out of my bag and tore them into tiny pieces in front of her. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I don't want to hurt you back anymore. I just want to know if we can be honest." Epilogue: the long road ahead. It has been 6 months since Megan's wedding. We are still married. Is it perfect? No, the magic is gone. When she tells me she's going to the store, there's still a tiny, microscopic part of my brain that wonders if she's telling the truth. I don't know if that ever goes away, but for the first time in our 5 years together, our marriage is built on the truth. It's a heavy, ugly, painful truth, but it's real. We are in intensive therapy. She has cut ties with several friends who encouraged her to keep the secret. We've had some very uncomfortable Thanksgiving dinners where her mother refused to look at me. I learned that marriage isn't a reset button, it's a continuation. If you're hiding something from your partner because you think it doesn't count, you're not protecting them. You're just building a timer on a bomb that will eventually go off. I'm 25, and I feel like I've lived a lifetime in the last year. We're taking it one day at a time. Some days I look at her and see the girl I fell in love with. Other days, I see the girl who danced with the best man. I'm just hoping that, eventually, those two people become one person I can trust again. Drop a comment below and tell me what you would have done in his shoes. If you want more stories just like this, hit that subscribe button and leave a like on the video. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next video.